Hey, welcome back. Today I made homemade pasta, but there's weed in it. This is a really easy recipe, very beginner friendly. I myself am a beginner at making pasta, so if you are like a pro, please don't be appalled by my technique and my broken pasta machine. We will be making 4 servings of pasta today, and one of these little mounds is a serving. So if you think you might want more than that, or you want a second helping but you don't want to get 2 servings worth of high, I would recommend having a non-weed pasta on the side just so you can kind of eat as much pasta as you want and you don't have to worry about getting too high. And I will be using wax to infuse my pasta. You've heard me say it a million times, but wax has a much more mild flavor than bud. But I will link a video in the description if you want to use bud. I do recommend using wax because it's easier to get a higher dose into a smaller quantity of oil. So keep that in mind. If you have access to wax, that's what I'd recommend for this recipe. But anyway, I'm now going to show you how I made 4 servings of pasta with about 100 milligrams each.
I am using half a gram of wax to get 4 servings of my desired dose, but I will put dosing instructions in the description so that you can customize that and go up or down, as you would like to. So first we need to decarb our wax, and mine came in this little glass jar which is not flammable, so I'm going to leave it in that, but if yours is flammable, take it out. And I'm just putting that on a cookie sheet and I'm going to bake it in the oven at 240 degrees Fahrenheit for about 35 minutes. When my wax has finished decarbing, I will take it out of the oven and dump it out of the container while it is still hot and liquidy. That's just the easiest way I've found to remove all of the wax from the container. And you can dump it on a silicone mat or parchment paper. Then I will put this whole baking sheet into the fridge. And once that has stiffened up a little bit, I'm just going to start sticking it to itself and then stick the whole glob of wax to a fork and put that to the side. Next, I'm preparing a double boiler, and I have a little insert, but you can just use a glass bowl over top of your saucepan. And to that, I am adding 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Then I grab my fork with the wax on it and just stir until all of the wax has melted into the oil. Then I'll put that to the side and get the rest of my ingredients ready. So for pasta, it's actually super simple. There's not a lot of ingredients. We'll take 1.5 cups of flour, 2 eggs, and of course our newly infused 1 tablespoon of olive oil. And we actually have one more ingredient. We're putting half a teaspoon of salt into our flour before we start mixing everything together. Then to start making the pasta, pour the flour onto a flat surface in a little mound and then carve a crater into your mound of flour. We're basically making a bowl for the rest of our ingredients. So then inside of our crater, we're adding 2 eggs and our tablespoon of oil. And then just scramble the eggs. So just start mixing those eggs together, mix it with the oil, and keep stirring it with a fork until it starts pulling in some of the flour. And then you can see I start kind of pushing the flour into the center, and we are going to try to mix all of this together until basically all of our flour is soaked up by that egg and oil mixture. If you have one of these scraper tools, they are really helpful for getting it to all incorporate a little bit faster, but if you don't, it's no problem at all. Just skip straight to kneading it with your hands. I'm going to knead this for about 5 to 10 minutes until, again, all of that flour is soaked up and the dough will look nice and smooth towards the end. And you'll see what that looks like in just a sec. Now that mine is smooth, I'm going to shape it into a ball by just tucking it under a bunch of times until I have a nice ball of dough. And then I need to let it rest for at least 30 minutes. I'm just covering mine with my bowl since I'm only doing 30 minutes, but you could leave it in the fridge up to 24 hours if you wrap it in saran wrap. Next, I'm cutting this into 4 even pieces, and if you wanted to get really exact with your dosing, you could weigh out each of these pieces to make sure they're all even. But either way, once you have your 4 pieces, we're going to cover those again and put them to the side. Then we'll get out our pasta maker and put it on the lowest setting. Mine's a 2 because we broke level 1, but you should put yours on level 1. And then stretch out the dough a little bit and run that through. And we are going to laminate our dough twice. So we'll fold it into thirds and then put it back through the machine on the lowest setting. And then fold it into thirds one more time and put it back through that lowest setting again. Then I'll turn my machine up to a level 3 for me, it'll be level 2 for you, and we will run that back through. And basically every time we go up a notch on our machine, it's going to make those two rollers closer together and make our pasta get a little bit thinner. So every time from here on out, I'm just doing one roll through and then taking it up a notch. Then you'll basically roll this out to your desired thickness. If you're making a funky pasta shape, you might want to do a little bit thicker, or if you like a thin noodle, do a thin noodle. I am rolling mine out to the thinnest that my machine will allow, which for me is a level 9. I don't know if that means anything. When you have finished rolling out your dough, we will just cut it into whatever pasta shape you like. So you could definitely do a ravioli or a tortellini or something stuffed like that. My machine has one of these little cutters on it, so I'm just going to run it through that and make some fettuccine noodles. As you're cutting your noodles, make sure you're throwing them in flour immediately after cutting them to make sure that they don't stick together. Then I just bunch my noodles together and I'll put that on a plate and put it to the side while I cut the rest of them. And make sure you are keeping your 4 servings separate. So don't make one big pile of pasta at the end. We want to have 4 little clumps. And that is it. Once we have all of our pasta cut into our desired shapes, we are ready to go. And there are a couple of things that we can do from here. You can cook it right away by boiling it, or you can refrigerate it for up to 24 hours and cook it tomorrow, or put it in the freezer and it will last up to 1 month. And you'll just cook it directly from frozen. And that is all. Here is my cooked weed pasta. Keep in mind it can take 2 to 3 hours for edibles to fully kick in, so don't go for a second helping of the weed pasta until you have waited plenty of time. Let me know what you thought of this recipe in the comments, and if you try making this at home, I would love to see pictures. You can find me on Instagram, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching.